Elena, he said quietly, I can't do this anymore. You're not the same person I married. At first, I thought I'd misheard him. My throat tightened. I reached for his arm, desperate. Please, Daniel. I'm still me. I just need time. We just need time. You promised we'd face everything together. Dear listener, my name is Elena, a 32-year-old nurse, and this is my story. Before the cancer, Daniel, my husband, and I were happy. At least I thought we were. We met when we were both struggling, two young dreamers with nothing but hope, and an old car that barely started in the winter. He was a medical intern working endless night shifts, and I was a nurse still paying off my student loans. We used to laugh about how poor we were, splitting instant noodles on our kitchen floor because we couldn't afford a dining table. He'd fall asleep studying and I'd drape a blanket over his shoulders, whispering that one day he'd wear the white coat with his name stitched in gold. I believed in him more than I believed in myself. When he couldn't afford his board exams, I took an extra shift at the hospital. When he fell behind on rent, I sold my mother's bracelet, the last gift she gave me before she died. He protested at first, but I told him it was our dream, not just his. We built our lives on small joys, second-hand furniture, late-night takeout, the radio humming in the background while we danced barefoot in the kitchen. And when he finally became Dr. Daniel Cortez, I felt like we had both earned the title. He used to look at me and say, "You're my anchor, Elena. I couldn't have done any of this without you." I believed him. Completely. Our wedding was simple but perfect. A quiet ceremony in a park. Just a handful of friends and a borrowed lace dress. I didn't need diamonds or luxury. I just wanted the man who once promised to choose me every day. That love, I learned, is easiest to promise when everything is beautiful. 2 years later, everything changed. It started with a lump. Small, painless, almost invisible. Something I noticed one morning while getting dressed. I told myself it was nothing, but the fear crept in, whispering louder every day until I finally went to the doctor. The word cancer hung in the air like a death sentence. Stage 2 breast cancer. When I told Daniel, he went silent. He kissed my forehead and said, "We'll handle it." But there was something in his eyes. Something distant, cold. At first, I told myself he was scared. He worked long hours, and maybe he didn't know how to cope. But as the treatments began, I felt him slipping away. When my hair started falling out, he winced when he looked at me. When I grew too weak to cook, he ordered takeout without asking if I could eat. When I asked him to come to chemotherapy, he said he had a full schedule and would come next time. Next time never came. After my mastectomy, when I came home with bandages across my chest, I expected comfort. His arms, his warmth, his voice saying it didn't matter. Instead, he looked at me like I was something broken. That night, I caught my reflection, pale, fragile, lopsided, and whispered, "You're still you." But deep down, I knew something had shifted. A week after my surgery, I came home from the hospital still stitched, swollen, and hollowed out. The air inside our house was too clean, too still, as if even the walls didn't know what to say. A vase of wilting lilies sat on the table, the same ones he had brought the day before my operation. Their scent, once comforting, now made me nauseous. I tried to act normal. I asked about his day, about dinner, about anything that would make us sound like us again. But he avoided my eyes, moving through the room like a guest. When I turned to change my bandages, I caught his reflection in the mirror, the flicker of discomfort in his gaze before he quickly looked away. My voice cracked when I asked, "Do you still see me, Daniel?" He said nothing. That silence was worse than cruelty. It was indifference, cold, professional, the same tone he used when delivering bad news to patients. Later that night, he came into the bedroom while I sat at the edge of the bed, my hands trembling around the edges of my blanket. He didn't sit beside me, didn't touch me. "Elena," he said quietly, "I can't do this anymore. You're not the same person I married." At first, I thought I'd misheard him. My throat tightened. I reached for his arm, desperate. "Please, Daniel. I'm still me. I just need time. We just need time. You promised we'd face everything together." He stepped back, eyes fixed somewhere over my shoulder. "You need to rest," he said flatly. "You'll be fine." Fine. That word broke me more than cancer ever could. I reminded him, between sobs that barely sounded human, of everything we had survived. How I worked 3 jobs when he couldn't pay his tuition. How I sold my mother's bracelet so he could sit his board exams. How I typed his thesis when he couldn't keep his eyes open. Whispering encouragements that were as much for me as for him. None of it mattered now. He packed his things methodically, folding each shirt as though this were just another clinical procedure. I watched, paralyzed, as he zipped the suitcase we'd once used on our honeymoon. The sound was so final, it might as well have been a door slamming in my chest. When he finally walked out, he didn't look back. The door clicked shut, soft but merciless. I sat there for hours, staring at the shadow his suitcase had left on the carpet, listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator, the only heartbeat left in the house. Then I broke, utterly and completely, the sobs tearing out of me until my voice was gone. The days that followed blurred into one long ache. Chemotherapy started soon after, and I faced it alone. The nurses became my family. They held my hand when the pain spiked, whispered jokes to distract me when I cried, and tucked a blanket around my shoulders when the chills came. One of them, a young nurse with tired eyes, brushed my hair one afternoon as it began to fall out in soft clumps onto the white sheets. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Her silence was the kind that held compassion, not judgment. I remember staring at the foredrip, the slow, steady fall of the liquid, poison and hope in equal measure, and thinking, this is what it feels like to be emptied out. Still, I kept waiting for him to call, to visit, to remember the woman who had once believed in him so fiercely. I told myself he was scared, that he'd come back when he realized what he'd done. But he didn't. The truth came in the form of a phone call. A colleague, hesitant and tearful, told me she had seen him at a restaurant, laughing with someone. With her. Marissa, a surgical nurse. The same one who'd once held my hand before an appointment. The one who'd told me, "You're so brave." Now she was living in my home, sleeping beside my husband. The humiliation was a wound deeper than any incision. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was how easily I have been erased. How quickly all those years of sacrifice, love, and shared struggle vanished, as if I'd never existed. Rumors spread. People said I'd changed, that I was bitter, different. They didn't see the nights I spent curled up on the cold bathroom floor, too weak to move, whispering to myself, "You're still alive, Elena. That has to count for something." And slowly it did. In time, I joined a cancer support group. At first, I could barely speak. I just listened to women whose stories sounded like echoes of mine. Women who had lost breasts, homes, marriages, but not their will to fight. One of them, Ruth, fierce, bright-eyed and wrapped in a turquoise scarf, looked at me one day and said, "You're not broken, dear. You're being reborn." That word, reborn, lingered. I started walking again, volunteering at the ward, smiling even when it hurt. And one morning, when I stood in front of the mirror and touched the scar across my chest, I didn't see absence anymore. I saw survival. Daniel took my love. Cancer took my body. But both stripped away only what was never meant to last. What remained was me. And this time, that was enough.